Should you get the iPad mini first generation here in 2025? So this device came out back in 2012, which was almost 13 years ago. And in this video, I'll be explaining to you whether or not it's still worth buying almost 13 years later. So in this video, we'll cover the design, the specs, and whether or not it's still worth buying. Starting off with the display, the screen size on the iPad mini is obviously smaller compared to other iPads. It has a 7.9-inch screen if we measure it diagonally, while other iPads have about 11 or 12-inch screens. Now on the back, it actually comes with two different colors. So there's a slate, which is the one that I have right now, and there's also the silver color. So there's actually a couple design features that I like about the iPad mini that makes it unique. And first off, we have the ringtone switcher, which we don't have on modern iPads. And at the top, we do still have the headphone jack. We don't have this on any modern iPhones or iPads nowadays. And also at the bottom, we do still have the lightning port. And that's all there is to cover for the design of the iPad mini first generation. Let's move on to the specs. So starting off with the battery life, this device has a 4,440 mAh battery life, as you can see here. And from my own personal experience, it's been able to last me for about a couple days before I have to charge it again. And for comparison, modern iPhones like the iPhone 16 Pro, for example, have about 3,500 mAh of battery life. So the iPad mini does do really well with this. And that's really all there is that you need to know for the battery life. And the next thing that we need to talk about is the speeds. So from my own personal experience, I haven't been able to load many online apps because first off, it only goes up to iOS 9, so most apps aren't supported on here. And second of all, it is really slow when I try to watch, for example, YouTube videos. If I go onto the web and go into youtube.com, or if I try to watch Netflix, it's just not going to be fast enough to load the films. And if you want to know the exact specs, it has half a gigabyte of RAM, and for comparison, the latest iPhone has 8 gigabytes. And it also has the Apple A6 chip, which is the same one from the iPhone 5. So that's really all there is to cover for the speeds. Let's now talk about the display. So like I mentioned earlier, it does have a 7.9-inch screen diagonally. So if we measure it from one corner to the other, it'll be 7.9 inches, which is pretty small compared to most tablets. And the next thing that we need to cover is the storage. So the iPad mini 3 actually comes with 3 different storage models. So there's a 16 gigabyte model, which is the one that I have, but there's also 32 and 64. So if you want to store a lot of photos and videos on your device, or you want to download large documents and movies to have offline, then this definitely won't be the right device to do that. So the last thing that we need to cover for this iPad is the camera. So the camera quality on this device is definitely not good. It takes 1.2 megapixel photos with the front camera, which is about the same quality as the one on the iPhone 5, and it could take up to HD video. And the rear camera can take up to 5 megapixel photos and 1080p video, which is also the same quality as the iPhone 5. Now that's really all there is to cover for the specs of the iPad mini first generation. So let's now talk about whether or not it's still worth buying. So my recommendation for you is to not get this device unless if you want to use it for reading online news or reading ebooks. Then I could consider either this or the iPad mini 2, because the iPad mini 2 does have a much better display. But if you want to be able to watch YouTube videos or do other online work instead, then I would recommend either the iPad mini 5 or the iPad mini 6 instead. And I'll have links for the reviews for all the other recommended iPads down below. So if you're interested in those, make sure to check them out. And that's really all there is for this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I come out with new content. Also, if you have any video suggestions, make sure to leave them down in the comments below.